Okay, so in this lecture, we will see earthquake monitoring and its measurement. It is very, very important chapter. While you want to record and monitor an earthquake, and also there are several scales through which you can measure the size of an earthquake. For example, generally, the earthquake size is being measured in terms of two major uh, types, two major, you can say the uh, uh, two major things. One is intensity and other is magnitude. Now, if you see what is called as the intensity of an earthquake is depend upon the qualitative measurements, like how strong the earthquake is feels to the observer. So this is the qualitative assessment of kind of damage done by an earthquake. Second very important parameter of the intensity is, characteristics of the intensity is, it depends upon the distance to the earthquake and the strength of the earthquake. For example, if I talk about the Bhuj earthquake, then the nearer to the epicentral region of the Bhuj earthquake, you will find more damage and the more intensity that the people might have felt. Similarly, in the case of the regions which is far away from the epicentral region, like Ahmedabad, which is almost, you can say, the 250-kilometer radial distance away from the epicenter of a Bhuj, probably in comparison to the epicentral regions, Ahmedabad felt little less intensity of an earthquake. Like in Vadodara, which is a similar case, similar radius, you can find it is little less intensity in comparison to what we have felt in the epicentral region of Bhuj, or maybe you can say the surrounding region. So we can say that the intensity is being changing with the distances for a same earthquake. It determines from the intensity of the shaking and the damage from the earthquake. So basically the intensity is the qualitative measurements. It is determined from the intensity of shaking and whatever the damages that is been happening from the earthquake. Now, if you see the in other way, if you see the other parameter like a magnitude, so magnitude is nothing but it is related to energy release during the earthquake. So as you know, when the earthquake happens, it releases a lot of energy when the rupture happens. So basically, when you convert this release of an energy into the some quantity, that is nothing but it is the magnitude. Now, if you see, it is in comparison to the intensity, the magnitude is the quantitative measurement of amount of energy released by an earthquake. Depend upon the size of the fault that breaks. We have already seen what is called as the rupture area. As you have a bigger length of the fault, there is a chances that the rupture area will be higher. And if the rupture area or the fault size, which will be higher, there is a possibility that the more energy that can be stored, and at the time of release, it can actually release the new amount of energy, which is quite high, and probably the magnitude of that earthquake, which will be higher. Basically, this can be determined from the recorded, this can be actually find out with, you can say, the seismic records, which can be measured through the seismograph. So that is the instrumental values that is coming. So if I compare these two parameters together, then I must say the intensity is the qualitative one, while the magnitude is the more reliable parameter, which is not been changing with the distance. The magnitude for the same earthquake is having only one value, because it is depending upon whatever the energy released during the earthquake, which is cannot be a change. However, the intensity for the same earthquake is been changing with the distances, right? Similarly, as I said, it is a qualitative measurements. Probably, since I said it is depending upon the observers, so observers' observations may be different for different situation. Suppose if you say me to give my feeling about certain earthquake, that how I have felt at my place for a same earthquake, and probably someone is having with me, he is also feeling, you can say, the similar earthquake, and he will describe in some other way. So probably based on description, if I quantify the value of intensity, there is a possibility that that value may change. So there is little bit ambiguity while you are actually finding out the intensity parameter in relation to the magnitude, right? I hope it is clear. Now, basically, for measuring an earthquake, the seismogram is a visual record of arrival time and magnitude of shaking associated with seismic waves. And this analysis of seismogram allows the measurement of size of an earthquake. As you know, seismograph will record whatever the recording we have seen, that is a P wave, S wave, and other waves. You can say the earthquake history you are saying, this is nothing but it is called as seismogram. If I say about measurement, there are two main scale which is very, very popular for measurement of an earthquake. First is Mercalli intensity scale. The Mercalli intensity scale is measuring the intensity in terms of 12 different digits. It's starting from low intensity, which is having a Roman number 1, and it goes to the highest intensity level, which is having 12. Now, and another one, which is the magnitude scale, which is the Richter scale. Whenever we say, you can say earthquake is coming, so earthquake is generally measured in terms of the Richter scale. So Richter scale is the logarithmic scale, and the magnitude is depending upon the amplitude of the waves and related to the total energy of an earthquake. So as I say, how strong the earthquake is feeling to the observer, how this particular intensity scale is been actually developed. So as the number of parameters which has been affecting to the intensity, what we have discussed, the first is the distance of hypocenter or the epicenter. I think it is well explained. Second is the geology of the site. As we have said, the damage is depending upon what is exactly the geology of the site. So for example, we have taken the case of a Mexico City earthquake of 1985, and we have said the damages in the far field region, which is quite high in comparison to the near field regions. Considering those things, the intensity is also going to be a change depending upon this. Similarly, the type of buildings or the structures is also depend upon that. Like for example, suppose just if you assume the 50 years before Ahmedabad. So mostly the Ahmedabad is having, you can say, the tenement kind of structures. And nowadays we are promoting a lot of high-rise structures. So can you say that the damages, if in some earthquake will occur in this particular region, can you say that this damages will be different? I hope it is yes, because nowadays the density of population in a one building, which has been increasing quite a lot over the period of time, and probably the chances of seismic risk is being increased in a cities which is quite high. So the intensity is also depends upon this. And the last point is there is the observers. Keeping all these parameters in the mind, the Mercalli scale is being actually developed. How it is going to be developed, we will actually discuss it, you can say that tomorrow. This is a general scale what I'm going to talk about, and we will discuss this particular thing in detail day after tomorrow, because time is very short now and probably we may not be able to cover all the things. So we will stop here and we will meet, you can say, the day after tomorrow, same time. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, I can actually answer.
You tried it.